Part two, we're talking about stances and how they are reflected in distance, okay? And we're talking about how distance is reflected in your kama, your physical postures, okay? You have to think about how the mind works to pick up movement, okay, and sensation, okay? When you're here, okay, and you're looking at somebody sideways, okay, your peripheral vision is working, okay? So, for example, if you're looking at me straight like this, and I'm a bouncer, which I was for many years, I might do something like this, and it looks strange to you. And it looks actually like you could just, I'm not watching what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is, I'm using my peripheral vision because it picks up vision a lot. It picks up movement the fastest. I can see more this way than if I'm looking directly at you this way, okay? So, a lot of times, if I'm in one of these stances like this, okay, where I'm coming in this way, the turn of my head might reflect that visual acuity. This is on a very high level, levels to the game. On a lower level and a more sort of approachable level, I might be tucking my chin, okay, at this distance, okay. I'll probably have my legs close together so I have mobility, okay. This is less than 3 feet, okay. Um, I might be in such a position where uh, I can very easily rotate, use rotational movements, okay? All factors at this distance, okay? Now, here's the interesting thing. At this distance, if you're right in front of me, more or less, okay, and you throw a punch and I do a very slight movement to slip the punch, okay, or comes here and I just do a quick, where I just deflect, okay, that works at this distance because of our proximity. If I'm out here, okay, and you're coming in to strike me with something or like this, and you're just coming in, and then you're at where I'm about here, and you're gonna smack me with the punch, okay? And the punch is coming, it's gonna hit me in the head. I don't do this, okay? Because at this distance, okay, your eye won't catch it, and I'll slip the punch, okay? At this distance, I'm very visible to you, and you have a lot more in your field of vision that you can track with what you're doing, okay? So, your movements in your postures and your stances reflect that, okay? And your stances will use bigger movements, okay? Those movements are done at that distance because they're more effective, and I can control what you're doing with those movements and with those postures. So you might take a stance like this, a wind position, okay? Um, at this distance, and I can move at these more wide circles. You will see the effectiveness of this when you're dealing with things like multiple opponents, okay? A big mistake that a lot of people train, and it's a very bad habit, is when you're dealing with multiple opponents, the same principles apply, okay? If we're in close this way, then I might have to use short movements as I cover up, as I hit, as I try to get behind somebody, as I try to pull my weapon and get some control of the situation. But when I'm out here, now you want to use these bigger movements, okay? As you are dealing with people encroaching, you want to try to get to a flank position, the same things you want, but you have to move with bigger, more gross movements to be effective and to really affect what the person who's attacking you is doing and how you want to make your attack on the person, okay? So your stances, your kamayas, they are affected by your distance, okay? And not just willy-nilly. They're affected by your distance because of the things that are effective at each given distance. And the stance can often reflect that. Surprise. So if I'm here in a Jumonji position from the Bujinkan, okay, I can make these very quick movements, okay? because of my distance to my opponent. I can play with distance, so I can act like I'm out here and I can't hit you. Okay, and then when I go to do the third one, after you're convinced I can't hit you, then I just make a movement shift and I can attack you with that. Okay, and the point being that at a distance less than 3 feet, okay, that's effective. Okay, on the other hand, if I'm doing something like this, this can serve as a shield. Okay, it can create a barrier, because if I'm trying to create more distance or trying to maintain a certain distance to the opponent, then I want to have some sort of cover. Okay, again, it makes sense. If we're right here on top of each other and I do this, there are things you can do where you actually use something like that to create a diversion, Mitsubishi, but you're not standing like this, okay? Because basically what a person will do is knock your hand down and knock your block off, okay? Your hands have to be in here a little closer, okay? Now, as soon as you start to extend that and you're creating some distance, this hand becomes like a shield, okay? And again, your kamae reflects that, okay? So, a big mistake people make is just practicing stances and saying they're part of the art. They may be, but levels to the game. And when you start to look at whatever art you study more effectively and for combat purposes, you have to understand why things look a certain way and work a certain way in a stance, okay? Some arts, because they don't deal with different distances, might have stances that reflect that option, okay? However, it's still good to understand the differences, okay? So, for example, if you're coming in on a profile line, okay, and you want to do something quick where you may be chopping, breaking the guard down and coming in, when you start to bridge that distance, okay, understand that your primary consideration here is how you're going to be able to move, okay, into that position to attack your opponent, all right? If you have a very wide position with your feet, you won't be able to move very effectively, okay? So you tighten this up, okay? Now, you can move faster, okay? Now, the other hand, if you have these long distance, okay, maybe we're 6 feet and over, about even 10 feet, okay, you can widen your positioning a little bit, because when you do take a step somewhere, you want to create a lot more distance. You don't, this isn't effective at this distance. These slight movements, okay, they're not going to do anything. The person will hit you, okay? So from here, I might do something that is a little bit more protracted with a wider berth. So think about this the next time you hear somebody say, well, in this art, we keep our feet close together because we're mobile. And then somebody else says, well, in our art, we do things because we want power, so we widen our stance. Your body position should reflect what you want to do, not what some art says you should do with them. That's how they developed in the first place, okay? Stances and kamaes are used, but they're not necessarily a part of everything you do when you're fighting and in your art. They are a function of distance. Treat them that way. Use them to enhance and to embellish and to augment your distancing, okay, your beat, your timing, and your ability to be effective, okay, as you move, remembering that they operate differently at different ranges, okay?